Hey guys, how y'all doing? I'm here to give you guys a recap on the Fate Stay Night movie Heaven's Feel Part 2 Lost Butterfly. Now, I will do the best I can to give you guys the detailed recap about this movie, but can't promise anything. I'll do the best I can like I said. So, if anything else, let's just get this started. We have to it that it picks off where part 1 left off with its ending, Shiro going home, and then he ends up having a little talk with Sakura, but Shiro says that he'll continue to fight. Eventually, he does meet up with Ilya, or Ilya Spiel, if anything, her full name, and ends up having a little conversation with her, but that conversation will get cut off after, Shiro talks about, someone called Kiritsugu Emiya, etc. And it seemed like it kind of ticked off, Ilya, and she ends up leaving right away. Eventually, he ends up meeting up with Tosaka, talks with her for a bit about the next plan of what to do, but after that, there's a scene where Shinji kidnaps Sakura, and Shinji almost kills Shiro, but Sakura ends up stopping Ryder from doing so. And of course, when we get to know, Sakura is actually the real master of Ryder, and after her defiance against Shinji's orders, Shinji ends up breaking something that causes Sakura's magic to go out of control or go berserk. And this, on the other hand, causes Sakura to lose control of her magic powers and eventually ends up injuring Shiro, and Shiro wakes up in the church, and we get to know Kotomi Akira was the one trying to help Sakura out and ends up having to use a lot of his crest to actually save her. But unfortunately, it's not really saving her in a certain sense, and eventually we get to know a little backstory about Rin telling Shiro that Sakura is actually her little sister, etc. And eventually she says she will kill Sakura because she will kill indiscriminately and her magic powers are pretty too intense, and if she goes berserk again, she'll cause deaths of innocent lives, etc. And eventually Shiro wants to protect Sakura, etc., but she ends up somehow leaving, of course. Eventually Shiro ends up meeting Ilya again, and she says she will help Shiro out even though she wants to kill him and Kiritsugu Emiya, but after seeing Shiro's selflessness, Ilya decides to help Shiro out due to the fact that he loves Sakura. And eventually Shiro does find Sakura and comforts her even after Sakura confesses to Shiro about all of her bad things, of how much of what she did to him, like fooling him, etc. But Shiro says she forgives her, and he tells her to not to come home with her. Eventually they do go home, but not before they talk. They cross paths with Rin and Archer, and Archer warns Shiro one thing: depending what path you choose, you could lose everything and anything. Just be careful what you decide to go for. Do you understand me? And of course, next morning, we see to it that Sakura and Shiro ends up having some breakfast with Ryder, etc. They end up having a little small talk of what's the next move to do. But we see to it, of course, Shiro decides to go talk to Iliasphere, maybe of holding up some kind of alliance whatsoever to figure out what's the next move. But we also see to it that Sakura does tell Ryder to keep an eye on Shiro and tries to make sure that he escapes no matter what. All right, if something goes dangerous, bring him back here. Eventually, Sakura does have some kind of strange feeling inside of her. I don't know what that feeling is, but one thing was sure, I can't really give you that explicit detail. But aside from that, Shiro decides to go to where Ilya is living at, and that's the castle. But unfortunately, Ilya gets an unwanted guest from Zokin, who apparently wants eternal life from the Holy Grail, and he swore that he will get it or something, etc., and make himself immortal. And we see to it, of course, that that strange black thing ends up showing up, and later on summons a Saber servant, which we all know who that is. And it is revealed later after the fight with Berserker. Saber takes on Berserker, and it seems like she was able to do some major damage against Berserker himself, etc. And things ended in a very crazy way after we see also Rin and Archer decide to try to convince Ilias Feel about maybe teaming up. Of course, Archer takes on the servant assassin of Zokin, and things kind of got a little hectic due to the fact that that shadow thing is being part of the reason why how the fight is being almost one-sided. And of course, Saber ends up unleashing a powerful attack enough to obliterate the castle and kill Berserker. And we get to know when her mask broke off, it was actually Saber herself, the former servant of Shiro. and therefore she tells the assassin, like, my job here is done, I'll leave the rest to you, you know? And things got a little bit hectic here, even though Archer, he does fight with the assassin, but he got stalled for a moment because he got hit by that black thing whatsoever, that shadow thing, etc. And we see to it, of course, Archer comes in and tries to defend Shiro, Rin, and Ilya from danger, and eventually he does get damaged a bit to a point where he has no choice but to use Rose Ayas whatsoever and protects Rin, Shiro, and Ilya. But unfortunately for Shiro, he loses one arm and he's gonna die from blood loss. Eventually, Archer, on the other hand, says his goodbyes to Tosaka, and he makes a devastating decision. And therefore, we see to it that Ryder asks Archer, are you really insane? You sure you really want to do this? There's no going back once you do it. And of course, Archer says, well, there's no thinking about it. So he ends up cutting off his own arm and gives it to Shiro somehow. And we see to it that Shiro comes home. Sakura gets really shocked about this, and we get to know a little bit about like how Rin met Shiro and how Sakura knows about Shiro as well. I mean, they did see the same boy trying to do some high jumps on something that made it look like he can't do it or something. But aside from that, it's just funny how these two girls know Shiro just by seeing him jump over someone to try to do high jumps or something in track and field. But aside from that, I think there was a scene. Of course, there is one scene that I will tell you for sure is like where Sakura does come to Shiro's room and Shiro does confess to Sakura, etc. They end up making love, if I have to say so. I'm not going to tell you any more details because if you guys are Fate Stay Night watchers of the anime or something up to this point, watching every other Fate Night series, you guys will know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, if you are visual novel readers, you'll get the idea. Aside from that, eventually, as the days go on, we see to it that Tosaka and Ilya, along with Sakura, are starting to coexist with each other for the time being to figure out what's the next move, you know? To figure out that shadow thing and Zokin. But one thing for sure that blew me away, which I will get to in just a moment, and I will get there in just a moment, but small little details about Sakura losing her taste whatsoever, and she ends up feeling some warmth from Shiro still, which she still enjoys. But eventually she ends up having this strange dream whatsoever that involves some kitty-like imaginations, you know? And I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about. That's if you guys are visual novel readers or etc. But aside from that, there was one scene with Kirei talking to the guy with the golden hair whatsoever, which we all know who that is, which I will not say here. And of course, things got a little bit more tense when it came to Sakura's dream. Now, if you guys are visual novel readers, you'll get the idea. But the moment I saw that, etc., and when it came to popping into reality, it was Sakura actually killing human beings. No, I'm deadly serious. And she was like, I'm not gonna say anymore because killing human beings, yes. I mean, I just saw fingers just chopped off and etc. But we see to it that the guy with the golden hair or yellow hair ends up having to stop her and says, yo, what the hell are you doing? And decides to kill her. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to work, and we see to it that we all know who the guy in the yellow hair is, but I'm not gonna give you guys the explicit detail because you should already know who that guy is unless you played the Fate Grand Order game or up to date with all the Fate Stay Night anime thing kind of whatsoever. But he ends up losing a leg, and later on, Sakura ends up having to regrow her injuries to regenerate her injuries, and this guy can only look up and see a giant shadow and go like, yo, you did not just get this far now, did you? But too late, chomp, and his body is not there. No, if I say chomp, y'all know what the rest of the details are. And eventually, I think Rin and Shiro ends up finding Sakura in the front porch after there was a knock whatsoever, and then I think Shiro saw something, but he decides to ignore it. Eventually, it got into a point where I think he had a nasty dream one time and ends up trying to figure out what's the next move. And I think there was a scene with Ilya having to talk to Sakura, and I think she knows the truth about Sakura. I think it was pretty obvious from the get-go for her, etc., trying to figure out what's her next move, because Ilya does tell Sakura that she is going to die. So eventually we see to it that Shiro does have that nightmarish dream where I think there was like a replicant or someone that looks like him, etc., ends up having to chop Sakura's head off. And eventually, one night when he was trying to sleep whatsoever, he ends up being visited by Zokin's assassin and decides to tell him, like, my master wants to speak to you. Come on. And we see to it that Shiro ends up having to talk to Zokin, and Zokin tells Shiro Emiya to help him kill that shadow or black thing whatsoever. And Shiro's like, I don't know what that thing is. What are you trying to tell me? Without a lot of detail, and to put it short, he's telling Shiro like Sakura herself is that evil shadow being whatsoever. And apparently this could only like bring Shiro like very like dangerous realization of what just happened right now, and he ends up saying, stop, just don't tell me anymore. But we see to it that Zokin continues by saying, you gotta stop her, man. There's only 4 days left, like, before the real Holy Grail comes about, etc. She represents all the evils of humanity whatsoever, I think. That's what Zokin's trying to imply. He even tells Shiro, like, Sakura is gonna continue to eat and kill every human being in the city unless you do something. So I'm asking you to kill her for me, you know? Of course, Shiro was close to doing so when he actually had some talk with her and ends up hanging out and spending some time with Rin and Ilya, and after talking with Sakura, he was very close to wanting to kill her, but he can't do it. And there was one question that came to his mind, especially in his dream, and he therefore was asked by this question, like, are you gonna betray? What are you gonna betray? And he says, yeah, I'm gonna betray. Eventually, after Sakura, who kind of was somewhat awake, etc., realizing what she's done, she decides to go back to the Zokin Mato house whatsoever, and Shinji was close to like doing that to her, but eventually after Sakura snapped really badly, she kills Shinji. All of a sudden, some giant shadow, which is apparently like the same thing we saw throughout part 1 and part 2 of this movie, shows up, consumes Sakura, and puts her into some kind of like dark human, some kind of dark reddish crimson form whatsoever, etc. And this caused Shiro trying to figure out what Sakura is, etc. And the movie ends up with having to see Sakura transform into something else, and with the evil menacing smile. And of course, there is a post preview of part 3 of Heaven's Feel movie, and that is going to show up spring 2020, which is next year. So yeah, what blew me away in this movie was Saber, that different kind of Saber. I don't have to say the name, obviously. I mean, it's pretty obvious from the get-go. If you play the game or if you play the visual novel, you will know who that servant is that took on Berserker in this movie. Not to mention Sakura. Yeah, it was kind of obvious from the get-go, I think, in a certain way. I think it was hinted at throughout part 1, and now it was doing the obvious in part 2 until it was confirming it at long last. Seeing her like in a certain dream and having to like kill human beings, or other words, I'm not going to say that in explicit detail. I mean, if you guys are visual novel readers or if you watched the movie already, you'll get the idea. I'm just like really blown away after what I just watched, honestly. I mean, seriously, I was like literally blown away of what I just saw. Like, Saber up against a Berserker and her power, dude. Holy mother. A lot of people told me about her strength, but I never expected her to be this terrifyingly strong. Hell, makes me wonder why F-Go played that ceremonial battle when Challenge Quest when we had to fight that Saber, you know? yeah, I was blown away of what people have been talking about Heaven's Feel, and now that I just watched part two, wow. Part 3 is coming out next year, and I hope it gets released in USA eventually, and I hope it'll be close by, because I was able to watch the movie like very close by, and I'm glad of it. Thank goodness. But yeah, this movie was pretty cool. I mean, like I can't say it's really fantastic or anything, but it was pretty awesome. I mean, like the way how part 1 became, and then I just watched part 2. Holy shish kebab, dude! I was like blown away about Saber, different Saber's power, terrifying power up against Berserker. Not to mention Sakura. Holy shish kebab! She was that shadow thing, eating, killing people, and now she's gone loco Berserk herself. Not to mention she was a master rider. Forgot a little small detail where she actually gave one final command to Ryder to do something, but we don't know what that is. Yeah, let's just say I'm blown away. I don't know what to expect in the final part of Heaven's Feel, but I was told like this is where it all ends, man. Be prepared. I do not know what to expect, but one thing was sure, it's gonna get crazy. Yeah, I am just blown away. Alright guys, I gave you as much detail as best as I can, just only maybe the surprising, shocking, important parts to me, but everything else, I don't know. I did what I can, but there was some other stuff, something about like Kushko K, I don't know what that is, and then like Rin and Sakura are sisters, you know, along with like many other things, etc. Sakura being that thing, shadow thing, or possibly the evils of humanity, because Kirei mentioned it with Gil about it, about another Holy Grail being involved. Like I said, don't know what to expect, but I do remember this though. I spoiled myself about Heaven's Feel a long time ago, and I'm trying to forget many parts of what I remember, but yeah. The preview though, the post preview of part 3 of Heaven's Feel. Wow. I'm going to expect a lot of crazy now, but we'll have to see. So until then, that's about it, people. I will see you guys in the next video. I'm Alpha Zero. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time, right? Peace out. Bye-bye. Toot toot.